This is Stronger Than My Father with Marcus Minis.
Welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your host, Marcus Minis Sr. This podcast is designed to bring more awareness to fatherhood, and hopefully through this episode, one day we can make fatherhood cool again. Hey, I can't do this by myself. I have to thank my producer, Mr. Jim McCarthy, and jmvos.com for... If you're interested in doing a podcast or if you're interested in voiceover worker, reach out to Jim McCarthy. Also, we are in a different studio, so I got to give a shout out to Music City One Realty Group. Did I get it right? Realty One Group, Music City, for allowing us to use their studio today. And I'm not in my normal studio. So let's get to work. Hey, I have the pleasure of introducing a guy who I heard speak at a conference that really moved me. And I say, and his story moved me, and I said, I got to get you on Strong My Father podcast. So I would like to introduce you to the Tennessee Titans PA announcer, Mr. Matt Rogers. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Hey,
it's good to be here.
Let's dive into, number one, when I heard you speak, you really moved me from your
awesome.
story. We both grew up Pentecostal, and I was like, I've never heard no one say in the audience, I'm Pentecostal. Most people kind of like hide that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, he just said it out front.
Well, we're in like Baptist country in the Bible Belt of Tennessee. So most people hear the word Pentecostal. It's like a cuss word, but like we're the normal ones. I didn't grow up around snakes or poison.
Yeah.
My sister didn't wear denim dresses with crimped hair. Like we just believe in the power of the Holy Spirit, and we actually believe that all things really are possible.
Well, that's cool, man. Cause like I said, I have never heard any speaker say that. Because when I go to these conferences, I'm like really focused on what I'm gonna learn and everything. He said Pentecostal, I was like, whoa. I need to talk to him after this, man.
That curveball to people sometimes. You threw stuff like this happens,
and you threw everybody a curveball. Because I seen people expressions. They looking you like, what do I say next? And you was like, hope I don't speak in tongues. And everybody just kind of looking at you. So, man, welcome so much, man. Thanks for taking out your time out of your busy schedule. Just give me a little time to, number one, discuss fatherhood. Yeah. You grew up with your father. Me and my barber had a hard discussion there about fatherhood. And you're probably maybe the fourth or fifth guest been on my show that grew up with their father.
Yeah.
What are some of the tips that you learned from him to help give you that development to be a father for today?
Yeah, I mean, that's why your podcast and what you do is so important, because fathers shape their children. Mm-hmm. And which is why, I mean, like, obviously, we talked about like where we all come from. Like, we're made in the image of God, and God is our father. Mm-hmm. So must be pretty important if, the creator of everything calls us his sons and his daughters. Mm-hmm. So for me, what I learned from my dad, and my dad is 78 years old now.
You had my dad beat by 5.
Really?
Yeah, my dad's 73.
So, and my pops is slowing down a little bit. Like he's fine, like everything's there, but he now he used to go fishing all the time and go to the racetrack and stuff. Like he loved the horse, races and this and that. But now it's like, hey, Dad, what'd you do today? He's like, well, I went in my backyard and walked around in my garden. And I'm like, God, that sounds boring. Jeez, Dad. But the thing, I call my dad Old Faithful.
Okay.
Because that dude never missed any of my little league games.
Wow.
He was at everything, and I wasn't I wasn't very good at sports when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Like I was always probably like the 5th or 6th one picked. Like I wasn't the worst, but I wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And I was never the best on the team. Mm-hmm. And he was just always there. Mm-hmm. And I think when you grow up in a home where you can trust your dad, I watched the way that he treated my mom.
Yep.
He never, ever, ever said like a coarse word to my mom. Yeah. My mom was the yeller. Yeah. My dad wasn't. And, never saw him, obviously I never saw him get physical with my mom. Mm-hmm. I never even really heard him raise his voice to my mom, which is awesome. Wow. But on the flip side, like my dad wasn't, a wuss either. Like he wasn't a freaking layover. Yeah. Like my mom didn't wear the pants in the relationship. Like my dad was very much a man, an authoritative figure. When I would get in trouble with my mom, it was like, wait till your dad gets home.
Wait till your dad gets home. Yeah.
And I was scared of that. So it's kind of like you can lead and you can be powerful without, yelling.
Yeah.
I would like to say I'm like my dad, but I'm not. I'm more like my mom. I do yell at my kids. When things get hot, I think we grew up
as brothers, man.
Yeah, seriously.
We got the same story. That's just crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So, I mean, dude, that is crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, you know, you're called stronger than my father. For me, I don't think I am stronger than my father. My dad was the role model. And when you talk about, you know, relationship with God and being a believer, it was very easy for me to believe in a good heavenly father because I did have a good earthly father.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening that didn't have a good earthly father, like, and I'm sure you talk about this every week, is that it changes with them.
Yeah.
Like they can change the game by being just a present father.
Yeah.
Like my dad was not, like I did not grow up in money. My dad was an insulator, never made more than $30,000 a year. You know, all the other kid had Nike Air Jordan flights. I had New Balance.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, all the other kids got, you know, the Sega Genesis when it got out. I got the hand-me-down Nintendo. You know, I did not have the first of anything. But my house was the house where everyone went and played. Like I had a basketball hoop in the front. Like my house was the house. People felt safe at my house.
Yeah.
And that was more important than having the best J's and having the best stuff. Cause you know, you don't, as men, we all want to provide, but I think it's more important to be present than it is to provide.
Well, I agree.
Both is great, but
I agree with that. We grew up the same. I mean, I never seen my dad cuss my mom out, hit my mom, hurt my mom. They were at the conference on Tuesday, and while I'm doing a podcast, I could see my parents' proudness in their eyes, saying their son is up here doing something and speaking about a subject that's hitting across America, which I call this the most silent pandemic, is the fatherless.
Yep.
And so to hear someone to say we grew up similar, just as similar, I get a lot of my yelling probably from mom, and she'll kill me when she hear this podcast. My dad,
sorry, moms, it's all your fault.
My dad didn't yell a lot, but my dad growing up, my dad could look at us and give us key phrases, and you had to make a life choice decision on what you gonna do. And so we will sit here, you know, from sagging your pants. My dad like, you want to show your blankety blank, then that's what you're gonna go to school. So me and my brothers looking at each other like, who gonna go sag their pants? And none of us did that. So I think just having that father presence in the home shaped us because we don't know what life is going to bring us. And my father told me at a marriage retreat in 2005, he said, I work my boys hard, but if I died tomorrow, my boys know how to make it.
Yeah.
And when he said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I knew everything what it takes to make it. You know, if I have to work 2 jobs, whatever I have to do to be sure my wife and my 2 kids eat.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing to me and why I continue to be an advocate for fatherhood. So I want to get into a bit of your story. I know you played football at Washington, right?
Yeah.
Won a national championship. How was that?
We finished number 2 in the nation.
Okay.
So back then it was 2001. We won the Rose Bowl.
Were you playing with Ryan Leaf?
He was at Washington State.
Washington State. Okay, got it.
He was, God, was he before me or after me? I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, he was at Washington State. I was at Washington. I did not play against Ryan Leaf, and but we ended up winning the Rose Bowl. I played against Drew Brees, Purdue.
Okay,
and that year it was Oklahoma that went 12-0, and they won the national championship, which we were burned out because we beat Miami. So when you watch the documentaries on ESPN, like the Miami Hurricanes, we were that Washington team that beat them.
Dang, awesome. I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, they had Ed Reed, Jeremy Shockey. Dude, they were freaking loaded.
Wow.
And they came in, we totally upset them because they were like 20-point favorites.
Yeah.
But we beat Miami. Miami beat Florida State, and then Florida State got to go to the national championship game and play against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they didn't even score a point on them. And, you know, we felt like we should have been there. Miami felt like they should have been there. Either way, Florida State should not have been there.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. I am a Seminoles fan. I didn't want to tell you that.
Didn't know.
I am a diehard Florida State
you're
Seminoles.
hot now. You guys are.
Yeah, man. I was like, we need to cut this podcast now. He's dogging my team out. But from football, and I know you did participate in American Idol.
Yeah.
What made you even decide to do American Idol, man?
So I remember watching Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard on the finale of season 2.
Okay.
And I remember watching from home, and I'm like, man, that's that's cool. Like, it was when reality TV first started to come out. Like, you had Survivor in 2000, which was like, whoa. And then American Idol came out. It's like, what is this, another Star Search? But it was different because you saw them bagging on the people and the bad ones. So I remember watching Clay and Ruben. I'm like, dude, those guys are legit. And so the next year, I'm not a musician or like an artist. Like, I'm not a deep musician. Like these guitars hanging behind you. Like, I don't know how to freaking play anything. I can't read music. Like, dude, I'm an ex-football player. I'm a meathead. I graduated with a 1.96 GPA. Like, I'm a freaking football player.
But you can sing.
But yeah,
if you made it number 3, you can sing.
I was like the dude that would sing in his jockstrap after the game to make my teammates laugh.
Wow.
And then like growing up, like I'd go into the church plays and stuff and do that. So I tried out for American Idol, like kind of on a whim. Like all my coworkers like, dude, you should try out. You could totally make it. So it's kind of like, all right, let's see how far I can go. And I'm standing there with people who are like, this is my life's dream. And if I don't make American Idol, I was like, whatever. Like, let's see.
Who cares, Like,
let's give it a shot. And I just kept going and going. Like, and it did get to a point when I made the top 12. And I'm looking at Jennifer Hudson.
Oh, you was with Jennifer?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, Jennifer Hudson, Fantasia, Diana DeGarmo, LaToya London. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, that's I
didn't know you battled with Fantasia.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was funny because I was the oldest. At the time I was 24. Fantasia was 19. Jennifer Hudson was like 18.
Yeah.
I was like the old guy in the house. So I was friends with all of them.
Wow.
And all the all the divas, like, they butted heads because they all wanted to win. I was no threat. But all of them, like, they were very similar in their genre and stuff, and they all like battled. So at the end of every day, I was like the counselor in the house. So like I'd sit down with Fantasia and she'd tell me all the drama, and then I'd go with Jennifer Hudson and she'd tell me that. So I was like a friend to all of them. And dude, even to this day, they're all such good friends. I was filming a show on Lifetime. It was called Coming Home, where we surprise soldiers and their families. And then every network, once a year, they have these things called up fronts, where they invite all of their talent to this big old dinner. And I had this new show, and there's like 400 people there. So, and this was like 7-8 years after Idol ended. And I'm in the room with all my executives and my bosses, and I'm like the low man on the totem pole. Like, no one really knows who I am because I have this new show. And you had like Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy and all these actors. It was when Army Wives was on, and it was real. So they're like, hey, you're going to have a dinner and this, that, and the entertainment tonight is Jennifer Hudson. And I'm like, oh, dude, I love Jennifer. I haven't talked to her in years. Like, I wonder if I get to see her, if she'll remember me. Because this was after she did Dreamgirls. She won an Oscar. She won a Gold Globe. She won everything. And she gets up and she sings the first song. And after the first song, she looks in the crowd. She goes, Matt, that's my man. I love Matt. And if you don't know Matt, you need to know. And dude, she totally like edified me in front of all my bosses and everything.
Wow.
So like before that, no one was talking to me. And after she did that, like everyone in the room started talking to me. Dude, she brought me back in her tour bus. It was awesome. So like you have that friendship and that bond that like didn't end. Plus I'm really good friends with George Huff. Who's her backup singer. So like Jennifer, she took care of her people when she made it, and she has made it. Like, she's
let me ask you this: is that what made you come to Tennessee to pursue music?
I came to Tennessee not to pursue music. I came to Tennessee because I was filming a TV show here. I was living in Clarksville, where Fort Campbell is, and all that. And dude, I loved it here. Honestly, I came here for the people. Because my TV show, everything was in California. My business, my friends, my family. We literally felt like if we go to Tennessee, like God will bless that, because we got peace about that. So we moved out here, no family, no money, no nothing.
Wow.
And this was in 2016. I had a show on Hallmark Channel, so I was flying back to Cali every 2 weeks. So I mean, we took a shot. Like I always tell people, like it scared me more to wake up in Corona, California, where I lived. It scared me more to wake up there 10 years from now and be like, dang, I wish I would have took a shot and moved. Versus hey, if we go to Tennessee and take a shot and it doesn't work out, we could always move back.
Yeah.
So the thought of not taking a shot scared me more than taking a shot and missing, because I'm not afraid to fail. And that's one thing when you talk about a father.
Yeah.
My dad made our house a very safe place to fail.
Yeah.
He never, like, I just never felt threatened by my dad. Like, oh my God, I better not screw up. I'm not talking about discipline. Like discipline, if you're a knucklehead, you got to
you got to deal with that. Yeah.
But I'm talking about like sports, relationships, school, taking a shot. Like, Dad, I got this idea. Anything. My dad made me feel safe to where if I screw up, he's got my back. And he's going to take care of me and make it all better. And I think that a lot of that made me the man I am today, because like I'm not afraid to take a shot and fail. Like when you talk about Tennessee Titans PA announcer, like, dude, all those guys that went for the job were way more qualified on paper than I was.
Wow. Oh, you had to apply for this? I thought they just gave it to you.
No, it was an open audition. I was sitting in a Chick-fil-A drive-thru 3.5 years ago, and my wife sent me a screenshot from the Titans Facebook page that said, the Titans are looking for a PA announcer, babe. Open auditions. Go get it. It's yours.
What?
And I'm like, let's go. Like, same thing as Idol. Like, what I got to lose? Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, dude, you had Stormy Warren and, like, all these professional
speakers,
real cats.
Yeah.
And my resume was, I was the PA announcer for my alma mater high school, and after one game, I got fired.
Darn.
Like, I'm nobody.
But I think what you're saying, you take risk. Because you had, like you said in Idol, I took a shot at Idol, not preparing to win, but if I win, great. And then same thing you did with this. So with the PA for the Titans, and I think just anybody in business or anything like that, it's take a risk. It's like this podcast. Took a risk. I did Jim McCarthy's podcast. He said, man, I think you're pretty good. I think you should try it. I was like, all right, tell me how much it costs for the equipment. And nearly 2 years later, we're still doing it. So and awesome. I take the risk. And when some people tell me it doesn't make sense, take the risk. And at least you could say, like you said, moving, I tried.
Right.
So just like me doing a nonprofit, took a risk, I tried. You know, when I left my job, my dad didn't want me to leave. He was like, you got to take, are you going to make some money? When I left, I looked at God and I said, just take care of me and my family. I don't know how you're going to do it, but just do that. And 5 years later, I've been on my own for 5 years doing Strong with My Father.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, dude, you're different. Like, people, other podcasters, they'll do segments on fatherhood or being a good father, but everything that you have is built around being a good father and Stronger Than My Father. I don't know of any other podcast show and nonprofit that talks about that, which is, you're an anomaly. You're different. Yeah.
I look at life and I look at taking a risk, and my mother taught me that on the spiritual side. My father just taught me how to do hard work. Yeah. And take care of a family. And I want to get into your family story before we wrap it up. But I took the risk. Just like I said, when they say, hey, for this fatherhood conference, I tell you this real quick before we go on your story, is that my friend said, hey, they have a big fatherhood conference. I said, I'm not going unless I'm on stage. And he said, well, let me talk to the committee. The next day, the committee emailed me back, said, congratulations, you've been selected to be on the stage for the first panel discussion. So then they said, you can apply for a breakout class. Well, I submitted, I got that. Then I get a call a couple of weeks later before the conference. They said, hey, we noticed you have a podcast. Would you be open to doing a fatherhood podcast on stage? And I'm sitting in my seat at home, and I'm literally about to break down crying. Cause I was like, I'd have never thought in my wildest mind somebody would ask me to do this. And so when we was up here this past Tuesday, and I'm looking at the whole audience, and I'm looking at Jim, and I'm like, man, we started this at the little small office a while, almost 2 years ago, and it's taking risk. And like I said, if you fail, you can say I tried. And that's the thing I always tell people. But when we was at the conference, your story about your children really hit me. And I want to dive in. Now, one thing, I have an undergrad in psychology. Mm-hmm. I always like to look how people's minds work when they deal with adversity. So I know your children, you said 3 of your children is cystic fibrosis?
Yep.
I want to ask you, as a father, and I have a son that has autism. My first son has autism, and when my wife told me that when he was 1 or maybe 1.5, I lost it.
Yeah.
I was mad at God. I was mad at everybody. And I said, that's why I didn't want to have a second child. Because my mom, I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to go with your story. My mom said, when you and Tori going to have another kid? And me just talking out of my mind like I usually do, say, Mom, my first child messed up. Why do I want another one? And my mom goes from smile to darn near ready to kill me. And she said, don't you ever in your life talk about my grandkid like that.
Amen, Mom.
And it scared me. And I was just scared to have another kid because I was like, well, my next child be autistic. So tell my viewers the story that you told about your children when we was at the conference.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, fear will keep you from doing anything.
I agree with that.
Did you end up having more kids?
Just one more.
Blessing?
Yeah. My baby boy, Jordan, who gets on my last nerves. But here's the thing. I love that boy so much. And I'm blessed I can pick him up from school and drop him off. Like I dropped him off this morning. Yeah. And I'm looking at the back seat of him and his grin, his smile, that he knows that he has a daddy that loves him. And what day you gonna pick me up, Daddy? You gonna take me to Starbucks? So we had a 6-year gap because I was scared to have another kid.
Dude, we are so similar. This is crazy.
I had a 6-year gap, but my wife was pushing 40. She was 38 when we had our last son, and she was crying. She's like, Mark, I want to have another kid. No, there's something wrong. You know, it could be in our genes. I want to deal with the problem. And she was crying. She said, I grew up a single child, and MJ needs a brother or sister. Would you please consider it? And I said, if the doctor said you're healthy enough, so I care about you more than your life, and it worked out. So Jordan's here. When Jordan was here, she said, don't ever ask me for no more kids. And that was it. Because Jordan was rough getting here. And so my wife was 38. Yeah. And because we had our first child at 33. So MJ journey has been one of the greatest journeys I've ever seen. A young man who loves God probably more than his own daddy. Like, he loves church. I never seen a child 4-year-old have a robe on his head and a tablet. He had my iPad. I still got his picture at 4 years old preaching. And my pastor's wife touched my wife's stomach in 2008, April 2008. We was at a marriage retreat. We ain't thinking about kids. And she touched my wife's stomach and she jumped. And she said, you got John the Baptist inside of you. You're pregnant.
Let's go.
I'm dead serious. And she said that. And I'm like, you ain't pregnant. You know, I ain't pregnant. And then 2 weeks later, she crying about her stomach. I'm like, go get a test if you think you're pregnant. And she got a test and she was pregnant with MJ. And that's all. MJ is my 14-year-old self. And when I see him every day, he's a freshman in high school. And I'm like, now how can I protect him? He has 4 more years. Is he ready for the world? And I'm scared. But my mom says, you never allow his condition. God's got him. And then, unfortunately, my sister has a son. I mean, a daughter that's autistic.
Yeah.
That's nonverbal. And I told her, but she can listen commands. She's good at commands. Like, you tell her sit down, she'll sit down. And my mom looked at her, she said, that girl gonna talk one day.
Yep.
My mom's very spiritual. And she said, your daughter gonna talk one day. And I looked at my sister, I said, one day she gonna call you mama and you gonna lose your mind.
See, that's the thing is, I could tell, I've never met your mom, but I could tell. Yeah. The Bible says renew your mind so you can prove the perfect will of God. Your mom knows it's God's will for that baby to talk.
Yeah.
Most people would say, well, God chose this and maybe it's just not in his plan for them to talk. But your mom would be like, no, I stand against the attack from the enemy. That baby will talk.
Yeah.
And the power of life and death is in our tongue.
I agree with that.
So I know that baby will talk because mama, grandma is speaking it over. And so, you know, for me, our story is so similar because, you know, I had my first son, everything's perfect. Second son is born with this rare genetic disease, cystic fibrosis. Mm-hmm. Ours is genetic. So there's a 25% chance that we'll have another baby that has cystic fibrosis. Mm-hmm. So there's an age gap now. My son with CF had CF. We can get into that. He was born with it. He ain't got it no more.
Amen.
15 years old, and then my daughter's 9 years old. So there's that 6 year gap.
6 year gap, And
then our new baby at home is 1 year old. So there's a 7.5 year gap.
7.5 year gap. Wow.
Because look at, man, just like you said, I was afraid to have another kid. Fear will paralyze you from doing the will of God. That's how Satan operates. He's the prince of darkness. He operates in any part of our life where we have fear or ignorance. Like that's the root word of darkness, is ignorance and fear. So it's kind of like, if he can get people in a state of fear, it will halt them from doing what God wants them to do.
I agree with that.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in fear. I know what it's like to have a depressed wife. I know what it's like to be broken, wondering how you're going to provide for your family. I know what it's like to be sick. I know what it's like to have sick kids. I know what it's like to have the biggest source of encouragement, your mom, who professed her healing all the way up until her last breath, and she dies. And you're like, well, where were you on that one, God? Like, I've been through all of it, but the number one thing is when you know the promise that God has over your life, you don't let the circumstances around you speak louder than truth when it's truth that sets you free.
Wow. And see, that's the thing that my mom put in me. And so once she told me, when she went off about my first one,
I want to meet your mom.
Yeah, I ain't never seen. I've never seen that rage, because she loves her grandchildren, and me, I'm just talking out of my head, kind of like what I do on these podcasts. Right. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but I just never experienced that before, and so now when we just gave my son a cell phone. And he does everything just like me. Hey, Dad, if you need anything, let me know. I'm like, you're at school. Well, I'm going to text you if I need something. He's like, if you need anything, give me a call. Because I say that. And so that shows me the power of fatherhood. Yep. It shows me the power of fatherhood. And for you and when you gave your testimony at the conference, and you was like, hey, I had 3 of my kids have the same issue, but I'm still there with them. When you was faced with these challenges, we both going to say God. How much of your dad influence growing up help you to, number one, comfort your wife, and be the man to say, you know what, I got this. I have this challenge. No matter what, I'm going to be there for my kids. Because you have 4 or 3.
I got 4 now.
4, okay. All right, you beat me by 2. So I probably should have had more. I just thought, you know what?
It's not too late. How old are you?
I'm 47. My wife, she would kill me if I tell her.
We had our second one, our 4th one at 44. So
yeah, she would. If I told my wife, she would come and be like, "Ain't no way," because the second one, she forgot to have a child. He was supposed to be born on August 25th, and she goes to the doctor for her last checkup. And the doctor was like, "Why haven't you had your child today?" My wife said, "Oh, I forgot." And I'm sitting here like, how in the world you forget to have a child? And so that was crazy. But I'm thankful that we had 2, because I could see how much my youngest, when I look at this photo right here and I look at those 2 looking at each other, I look at MJ saying, you protect your brother at all costs. He loved his brother. So now when we go to restaurants, I let him go to the bathroom with his brother by himself. But what do I tell MJ? You protect your brother. Yeah. And he watches his brother. Now, only thing about MJ, he tried to act like me as his dad. Like, don't hit your brother. Don't you do that. Right. I'm like, you're not dad. But it's comforting me to know that when he becomes a father, I believe he will be there. He would do the same thing I did. And because I've watched my dad as well. But for you, how were you able to have the strength from you said 3 of your children was diagnosed. How were you able to get through that and keep a sane mind?
So that's a great question. Your kids will mimic what they see their parents do. Okay. When I was 5 years old, so like you, I learned my work ethic from my dad. Okay. Spiritual side I got from my mom.
Darn, we the same. Jim, we gotta be sure we don't have the same siblings. Seriously. We are the same, because I tell people that same thing all the time.
My dad loves Jesus, has always loved the Lord, but he's very, very quiet, and he's not outspoken about it. Like, I mean, he's more now. Like, I don't know if you get older or whatever, but my mom was like Billy Graham, Jimmy Swaggart, and Catherine Kuhlman had a baby, and she was like,
I'm gonna take you to my parents' house so y'all can meet that.
Like, my mom preached to everyone, not in a weird way. Like, she made Jesus so attractive to hurting people and just normal people that they wanted what she had. So when I'm 5 years old, I was diagnosed with a heart condition, and the doctor said he'll never play sports. He'll never be able to go in PE. If he gets his heart rate above 110, he'll have a heart attack and die. Wow. I remember my mom saying to these doctors, it doesn't matter what you say, my Jesus is going to heal him.
Wow.
So at a young age, I had Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan on my wall, but I had Jesus like on my chest. Like Jesus was my hero.
Wow.
So now fast forward to whatever, I'm 30 years old, 29 years old.
Yeah.
When the doctors say, hey, unfortunately, your son has this thing. He's going to be on a feeding tube. He'll never do this. He'll never do that. I took a play out of my mom's playbook, and I said, it don't matter what you say. My Jesus is going to heal him. Yeah. So you look at my son today. He's 15 years old. He's a sophomore for Independence High School. He suited up for his first varsity game last week.
Wow.
Never been on a feeding tube, and his salt levels are completely normal now. And doctors are astonished that he don't even do breathing treatments anymore.
Wow.
You come look at the Rodgers in 2010. We're depressed. We're broke. My kid is sick. It's very, very real. Mm-hmm. But you come look at the Rodgers today. My boy ain't on breathing treatments and all that. And I mean, I could talk about this stuff forever because, man, there's something very special about. I have this problem that's very real, like autism, very real. Yeah. Cystic fibrosis, very real. Yeah. Cancer, very real. Whatever the problem is, it's very real. But you also have this promise of life and life more abundantly. All things are possible to those that believe. Yeah, lay hands on the sick and they will recover. By his stripes, we are healed. You have these promises, but you have this very real problem. Yeah. And for me, to answer your question, it was always living between the promise and the problem that kept me completely dependent on God. Wow. Like, every breath, every day when I would wake up, you're gonna make me freaking cry. I mean, dude, there are days I wake up and I'm like, I can't do this, God. My wife is depressed. I'm freaking broke. My kid's sick. I don't want to read the Bible. Yeah. I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to go, help me. Like, sometimes the most effective prayer is help.
Yeah. I tell people all the time. Yeah.
And somehow he came through, and and then you could go with this, but the number one thing the enemy's always going to try to do to people is to get them to quit. Yeah. Is to get them to, I don't want another kid. What if it's another problem, this and that? That's why I think suicide and abortion are the two biggest lies on the planet, because people think they're taking something that's theirs when it's not theirs. They're created in God's image.
I agree with that.
Your life is not yours. You're not taking your own life. You're taking the destiny that he put inside of you, and you're robbing the world of what you have. Like, what if you and your wife never had your second child? Like, who knows what he's going to be? He might be the next leader of a great revival. He might be the next president of the United States. He might be the next best football coach on the planet. And the devil's number one thing was to try to take him out, to try to strike so much fear that you wouldn't have another kid. So we were done after our second. We said the same thing. Well, what if we have another one? And we never thought in a million years we would have another baby that would have cystic fibrosis. And then when Samantha, my daughter, was born, who we named after my late mom, when we got the diagnosis for her that she had it, it was worse than finding out the first time. But you look at Samantha today, 9 years old, we didn't quit. She's been on the Ellen show. I got to minister to Ellen.
Yeah, I remember you showing that video.
I got to minister to Ellen, and Ellen does not like Christians, because all the Christians want to do is tell her that she's going to hell. Yeah. But you get a real person that represents Jesus on there and just love that woman.
That's what you're supposed to do.
God loves your heart. You do a lot of good stuff for people. Ellen was like, I've never met anyone like you. I want you to stay the whole time. And so through my daughter's life, we've ministered to hundreds of thousands of people because of that. And the very first question the doctor asked me, because we found out about my daughter's diagnosis when she was in utero. Yeah. We found out a month after my son was born that he had it. But I'll never forget the doctor calling me. It was one of the worst days of my life. It was January 5th, 2014. She goes, "This is Matt Rogers. I can confirm you're having a baby girl. I could also confirm that she's going to have cystic fibrosis. First question, do you want to terminate the pregnancy?" And I just cried and I hung up the phone. I said, "Thanks, doc." The number one thing the devil's going to try to do is strike so much fear into you that he will kill your miracle by any means possible. Wow. Whether it's blaming you, blaming the doctor, blaming someone else. The devil doesn't fight fair. He just wants to take you out. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So anything in my life that lines up with steal, kill, and destroy, I get it out. Anything that lines up with life and life more abundantly, I go after that. So that's kind of the short answer.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, Jim is good getting clips, and you ministered to me. I think the thing that helped me the most with my son was, number one, God. And then number two, I said, once my mom went off on me, I knew then, I was like, okay, you just got to have another one. And that was the best move I ever made. Like having two boys, like when I'm doing the mentorship and stuff like that, and I see both of my boys with me, and we took some photos almost a month ago, just me and my kids, because I want to develop a program called Fatherhood Legacy, where I can get men like you and other men that can speak wisdom and knowledge into broken men, to let them know it's important to leave a legacy in your children, not so much financially, but what can, like me and you, we've been left something by our parents that can carry going on and on. So I think just for our stories is that fatherhood matters, and I think just us as dads, we have to continue to fight for our kids. So as we wrap this up, two things I want to ask you. If there's a dad who's listening that's kind of broken, what would you tell him? He may be facing financial troubles, children troubles, maybe even marriage troubles. What would you tell him to do so he doesn't give up and give up on his children?
Don't ever define your life by the season that you're in. It's a season.
Wow. That's deep.
Don't define your life by the season that you're in. There's a beginning, middle, and an end to your story. This is not how your story ends. God did not sentence you to poverty. God did not sentence you to sickness. God did not sentence you to anxiety, fear, depression, anger. God sentenced you to success, to leave a legacy for your children.
Yeah.
It says the steps of the righteous are paved by God. It does not say the steps of the righteous are easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
He says in this life you will have tribulations, but take peace, for I've overcome the world. So that's why, and gosh, this is such a deep question, because where we live in Tennessee, they make God and Jesus all about a prayer to get to heaven.
Yeah.
You know, like, get out of jail free card. And brother, if you died tonight, where are you spending eternity? You know what I mean? Like, and that's true. It's like, if you're a believer and you die tonight, yes, you get to go to heaven. But like, dude, that's not the goal. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Like, we were created, like in Genesis, like we were created to have dominion. When God made us in the garden, he said, be fruitful, multiply my image, have dominion. So if you're going through a season where your finances are down, like you're a loser, it's a season. Don't let your life, because that's when your mind will make the best of you and be like, I am this. I am a loser. And you know, it's a season in life. I'll never forget when a family member of mine, good man, believer, loves the Lord. Mason was about 4 years old. That's my second son who got the diagnosis. He was about 4 years old and he was really, really sick. And all signs were starting to look like, you know, he might have to be on a feeding tube. He's not gaining weight, all this stuff. And my wife and I, we were just very, very sad, depressed, down. And one of my family members gave me a note that said, God has you going through this for a reason, and ultimately he will get the glory, and Mason will get his healing when he gets to heaven. And I was like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Like, this is supposed to freaking encourage me now? Like, no. And I remember crying, and I threw that letter, and then I go, God, you said, because I saw this in the life of Jesus, Mason can get his healing now. Yeah. Like, you paid a price. And for those of you struggling who are listening, going through a season right now, the Bible says no greater love does someone have than they would lay down their life for that person. God did not lay down his life for a loser. God laid down his life for a winner. You are worth the life of Jesus. Like God said before you even born, my life dying is worth their life living. So you are sentenced to success, even though you're walking through failure right now. You are sentenced to victory, even though you're walking through defeat right now. Like, this is why the Bible's so important. I'm not saying this stuff to just check my religious box. Like, dude, I live this way.
You lived it, so you have the testimony.
It's a season. God has sentenced you to more. So believe that, go towards that, get up, get out of bed, show up to work one more day, show up to pick up your kids one more day, whatever that thing is. Just keep showing up. and believe God and watch how it ends, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Well, I can't say no more than that. When you was talking, I was thinking about one of my favorite movies is John Q. Like John Q, because they tried to tell him to give up, and they was like, just accept it. Mike's gonna die. And he says, I don't accept that. He said, I actually reject that. Yep. And he said, my son gonna live. Y'all ain't figured it out yet. And I watched it the other day. I was so tired from the conference from day one. And my wife's like, why are you watching John Q at 10:30 at night? You gotta get up early in the morning. I said, it's because
it's Denzel.
It's Denzel. But you know what? When he was looking at his son before, because he said, hey, if I gotta take my life, fine. But he was talking to his son, and I always tell everybody, he should have got an Oscar for that movie, because when he looks at his son and crying, I cry. That's the only one that gets me, because it's like I'm looking at my kids, and you never know if you're going to be in that situation. I don't know if I'm going to get a call to say, you got to get to the emergency room, your son. I don't know. So every day I wake up, I say, thank God for life. Every day I go to I say, thank God that my boy's life is still here and my wife's life still here. Because when I wake up in the morning, I say, it's about those three. Mm-hmm. And I said, Lord, put me in a position. I have a hard job. Nonprofit ain't the easiest job.
Right.
Because I have to focus, fundraise, beg people for money. Right. But at the end, what keeps me sane, and I've been doing this 10 years. 10 years, I said, and people ask me all the time, how you get 10 years? I said, look, it was God. It ain't Mark. Mark is, I've been done with this. But I look at my boys, and I thank God for them. And I think, for you, your story was inspirational. We was at the conference. Derner had me crying. I was trying not to. I'm trying to look serious at this meeting, but I think I had to have you on this podcast to, number one, share your story and encourage those dads that are listening, because we have picked up a lot more followers, a lot more guys at Mark. When you bring guests on, man, they stories are inspiring, because we go through real life as a father. We go through it. And when I see kids out here that do not have a father, I went to go see one of my boys in my mentoring program yesterday, acting out in school. And I looked at him, I said, you have one of the most beautiful mothers I ever seen. Yep. I said, let me take you in my car. Let me take you off 2nd Avenue to the projects where they have moms who don't give a crap about their kids. You want to see life? He was like, no, sir. He crying. I was going to put him in my car and take him there. Yeah. And I said, hopefully we come back both alive. But, fatherhood matters. You're doing what you have to do. And I want to thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me,
where can people find you at, man? Where people can connect with Matt Rogers at?
Everything is Matt Rogers USA. So Instagram, Facebook, everything Matt Rogers, MatTrogers USA. And then my website is mattrogersusa.com. Mm-hmm. And we have everything there, like my podcast content. If I'm speaking anywhere, it's all there.
And listen to him, because he's the PA for the Titans. Yeah. So listen to him for the Titans.
Before I let you go, you want me to tell you how I got that job?
How'd you get out? Well, I know you're going to tell me God.
No.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, God, but let me tell you, fundamentally, how I got that job. Yeah. Everyone on paper was more qualified than me. I was the last person to go, so I got the opportunity to listen to the 15 guys before me when they went. Yeah. And dude, God bless them all. They're all good people. Mm-hmm. They all freaking did it exactly the same.
You did it different.
Ladies and gentlemen, at running back, number 22, Derrick Henry. Yeah. And all of them have better voices than me. Like, you hear my voice. Like, I just have a normal voice. Like, it's not like, man, his voice is so different. Like, no, these guys had way better voices, way more qualified. Yeah. When I got up there to announce Derrick Henry, it was... And at a running back, your two-time NFL rushing champion, number 22, all hail King Henry. And everyone else was like, Derrick Henry, running back.
You got me pumped. I don't even play football.
Dude, my point is, I said I got one freaking shot at this thing. Yeah. I'm going to give it me how I would do it. Not how the paper says I do it, I get so much freaking hate, especially the first few years. This guy sucks. He's supposed to announce the home team first, and he announces the visitors first. He doesn't do it the right way. And it's like, bro.
People telling you that now?
Now it's died down because I'm going into year 3, but the first years, this guy freaking sucks. He's a rookie. They should have done this. Like, dude, everyone's got a freaking opinion. Mm-hmm. And which is why I love Coach Prime so much. I love listening to him. It's like, dude, you didn't make me, so you can't break me. So all of these, quote, professionals that tell me how much I suck, like, dude, you didn't give me the job, so you can't take the job away. So you can keep yapping because it's their opinion. But, like, I know that God got me this job, and I know that I did it different than anyone else. Wow. I like to announce Titans second. So when the Titans score, so by the book, what you should do is your score after the first quarter, the New York Jets 7, or I'm sorry, your score after the first quarter, the Tennessee Titans 14, the New York Jets 7. That's how you should do it, based off of what they say. I say, and after one, the New York Jets 7, your Tennessee Titans 14.
That sounds well up. Yeah.
But that's not the way you're supposed to do it. And it's like, I don't freaking want to do it your way.
Well, that's me. Man, we got to be brothers. I'm going to look up our lineage. It's no way we both think the same way. Because I do everything Orthodox.
Yeah.
And people, Mark, you don't supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to do it this way. Look, we did the podcast, and I know we got to go. When we did the podcast, too, they gave me a whole list of things you're supposed to say, hey, I'm not doing that. I got to be myself. I said, I'm going to get the crowd going, and I'm going to be myself. And when I'm ready to pop off about a subject, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be sure I be cool because mom and dad's looking at me. But everything I do is unorthodox. From the mentoring program, look, I just find somewhere else to go. Where we going to go? I don't know. I'll figure something out. It's just who I am. Yeah. But here's the crazy part. It works. So when people see us on social media, they see us we're going to the Century Guard for the Blind Saturday for 2 hours. It works, and people are seeing something that's consistent every 2 weeks with mentorship. And I'm like, I'm not Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I'm not Boys and Girls Club. I'm stronger than my father, and I'm Marcus Manise. And I say, I'm not. The day I have to change to be like what everybody wants me to be, the day I'm not doing this anymore. And I am who I am. But I always tell people, when you see me, you see Paul Manise Sr. is my dad.
That's why I love you. Like, dude, you're different. You know how many people ask me to do their shows and stuff, and like, I don't have time to, like, dude, you were freaking different.
I was scared to ask you, dude. I ain't going to lie to you.
And I learned this from the late Miles Monroe, one of my favorite ministers of all time. He told me this, and he says it a lot in his books. He says, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and none of them have your fingerprints. You were born an original. Don't die a copy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm that's how I'm gonna live. Like, whether they love me or they hate me, I'm gonna be different. And after I got the job, they looked at me and they said, don't change, do it that way. And I just went to the Hall of Fame game, and the best PA announcer on the planet known is the Minnesota Vikings guy, Alan Roach. He's got these golden pipes. Yeah. He does every Super Bowl, every grand, like, he's the voice. And my goal is I want to do a Super Bowl one day. Like, now I have a new goal. I want to PA announce. You gonna do it. And I went
just
to the
text
Hall
me
of
when
Fame
you do
game.
it so I can listen to you.
And text he did the Hall of Fame game, and I was texting my boss. I said, hey, I heard Alan Roach do this and that. So when I went to my first Titans game going to year 3, I said, hey, should I do the reading more like this? Is that? He goes, I don't want Alan Roach. I want Matt Rogers. Stop trying to be someone. I'm like, okay. He reassured me, like, I'm okay to be me.
Well, I tell people all the time, it's okay to be yourself. And thanks, Jim. I want to be myself, and I don't want to change who I am. And I think the day I have to change for people, it's the day I won't do this anymore. And I will be myself. So, hey, thank you, Matt, for joining me. Please, we got to do this again. I got to do this again with you again. Maybe use this one and bring 2 or 3 more people and I get people stirred up. So I thank you for your time. I know you're busy, and I hope I didn't get on your nerves today. I was like, you did. You got to interview Matt today.
It's impossible for you to get on someone's nerves. If anything, you're going to scare the crap out of people's nerves.
So, hey, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Strong in My Father podcast. If you like what you hear, please click the subscribe button and follow us on all of our social media platforms. And if you'd like to leave a donation to help us continue to further this work, go to our website, strongerthanmyfather.org/donate. Thanks again, Jim McCarthy and JimMcCarthyVoices.com for producing another podcast. I see you again on another episode of Strong in My Father podcast.